OG, big fish. We the ones that you wanna get with. Took a couple L's, rung a couple bells. Real ones, too legit for coin selling. Straight shooters, all troopers. Me and the guys ain't never been losers. See a nice little thing, we pursue her. See a nice little thing. My apologies for the delay. My apologies. You can never, even if you rehearse this, we own it. Got Cuzzo in the building. Big Cuz in the building. All we do is impress. Put the work in, never mind all the stress. If you don't mind test when you OG 101, it was all in the prep. Yeah. With some legends in the game. If you're scared to embrace it, then how you gonna change? Yeah, everyone wanna range, but the value that you bring, little boy, smart change. I'm just saying, that's like, man, you control your destiny simply with your mind frame. You go hard from the gate, every day, clean slate, and patience is a privilege. I ain't got so I wait. OG, big fish, we the ones that you wanna get with. Took a couple L's, rung a couple bells, real ones. Too legit for coin selling. Straight shoot. Let's get this down a little bit. All right, so we got a good show for y'all today. My apologies for the delay. Totally on me. And I'm not gonna waste any time. Yeah. Hold on, we gotta hear that. We gotta hear the big fish. OG. Big fish. All right, my apologies. We got a lot to cover today. Yeah. Had a lot to go over with y'all. And when I say a lot to cover, we're going to we're going to do it. We're going to put the good energy out there. We're going to go through, because of the last interview, Kamala Harris has been giving us a lot of content. We definitely appreciate that. But based on the last interview, we're going to change, instead of watching just one or just different clips, we're going to try to get through the entire thing. So give me a second on that, actually. One second. One second on that. Hold on. Let's go through it. And then we got a bombshell to drop, apparently, with Candace Owens. So we're going to get through that interview. That's going to take a little bit of time because it's 26 minutes, but we'll get through it. And then we got a bombshell from Candace Owens, or what appears that it could likely be leading to. And this is obviously regarding Candace Owens saying that Kamala, doing a deep dive into her family, saying that she's misrepresenting a lot of her family as far as her Black heritage. And notice that she hasn't been leading with that a lot. And some people may say, well, who cares? It doesn't even matter. Well, it doesn't matter if she's Black. It doesn't. But it matters if you're telling people that you're Black in order to get a certain type of vote. And it matters if you're misrepresenting your family based on using pictures that are not certain people in your family, and you're trying to act as if they are, just to gain some popularity amongst a group of people. One second. Dad, they came yesterday and I just saw one, man. So we fighting this bug issue in here, man. So if y'all see me pop up, that's what it's from. They didn't spray. I don't know what's going on. But it is what it is. As always, it's Friday. So let's remind us of that. And then I'm going to share with y'all a little bit on this conversation that I had yesterday with a few friends. We did our college meeting again, and it got interesting. It got very interesting. We talked politics, we talked relationships, and some people got mad. Somebody even stormed off the call, but it was an interesting convo. So, and I'm sure BK, he'll be on that moving forward. So let's get into this interview. And I kind of want to, there's a couple things that I want to preface it with, but I'd rather watch the interview first and then show y'all. So like even certain things where the interviewer made some comments saying that like, hey, we initially allotted for this time, but her team came late so that we would only be able to have a certain amount of time. So this is a very interesting interview. And without further ado, I'm just going to begin playing it for y'all. And I would love to see, what are y'all thoughts on this? Like, what are y'all thoughts? Please get involved in the chat, because I want to make sure that this is not just I got it. Y'all are my checks and balance system in a lot of ways.
I'm being totally honest. Y'all are my checks and balance system in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of times we can become leaning in one particular direction and think that we're still, seeing things clearly, but we can be altered just based on our bias and not being able to be objective. So y'all are my checks and balance system. So make sure that you like. That's going to help boost the algorithm. Make sure as many different people get to enjoy this conversation. But let's get into it. And I need y'all involved. All right, so let's get to it.
Voters tell pollsters all over. Madam Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
Voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number, do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point, okay? The point is...
He's asking for a specific number, right? He started off the interview strong, I'm not going to lie. He got right to it. And this is one of the things that I heard some of the commentators saying. They said that he started it off disrespectful. Other people said, just answer the question. He asked a straightforward question, and he did not want to entertain the normal word salad answer that Kamala gives. So which side are y'all seeing it from so far?
1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point, okay? The point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when
I understand the frustration on his end, and this is the thing. In a normal interview, I'll be totally honest. In a normal interview, I could see how people would see his approach being a bit harsh in a normal interview. Understanding Kamala Harris and understanding how she's interviewed, where she does not answer questions straightforward. She always plays the blame game. She seems to recycle the same rhetoric, whether it's I was raised in the middle class or I'm the only candidate in this race that has prosecuted criminals for coming across board, all that stuff, the normal stuff that she says. He asked a straightforward question. Did not get a straightforward answer. And she's starting off by saying that we have a broken border system. A broken border system. Who broke it? And if it was always broken, the question that I asked you on the last show, how was Donald Trump able to contain the migrants coming in at a much greater rate, or I should say lesser? How was he able to control it in a greater way compared to hers, which y'all heard the 60 Minutes interviewer clearly say that the numbers quadrupled when her and Joe Biden came into office. So y'all tell me. And shout out to Mac Daddy. Shout out to Mac Daddy. We can be unburdened by what has been the last 4 years. I see. So that's another one that she always says. So Aunt Rodak, are you implying Kamala has a problem accepting accountability because she's a woman candidate? Yo. Oh, you have no idea why that's funny. Yo, so I'm definitely not on that end anymore. I'm definitely not on that end. That's not what nope. You're not going to get me. I'll be totally honest. I told y'all I had an epiphany on the last show. So what Ant's kind of joking about, for the people that weren't on, matter of fact, I think that was 2 shows ago on Monday. I used to see things that I wanted a man as president. I preferred a man as president. But I realized that by playing that identity game, it can lead to issues in other areas, and same issues that I complain about, whether it's black people always voting Democrat or this, or us just voting for somebody because they're black. And so I just said, you know what? I'm rooting for the best candidate. Whoever's the best candidate, I'm sure it'll show. So Yeah, we'll keep going from there. And dang, y'all didn't even tell me. All right, let's go.
When you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't bring
middle
up
of
that bill.
responding to the...
This reminds me of a conversation I was having with one of my buddies yesterday. We're talking like having direct convo about funny. We're talking about politics and everything else. And he's giving me a roundabout answer that is losing people on the Zoom call that are literally typing in the group chat like, yo, you lost me, bro. Like, yo, what are we even talking about? How did we get here? That wasn't the question. But I have to, it is a little bit like, oh, he's not, he's not going to allow her to give these type of roundabout answers without answering the question directly. And this is the first time that I've actually seen a reporter pull out the actual policy that they're referring to. And he does this throughout the interview. So he is well prepared. And I get it. Like, no, we're not going to do all that extra stuff. We're going to get directly to the point. You came onto our platform, and this is how the interview is going to go. Now, of course, she wasn't used to that being on the more friendly platforms. We get it. Friendlier platforms, whether it's for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, are going to be conducted in a different way. However, he is just pressing the issue, and not allowing her to hide behind a lot of the same excuses and reasons that she brings up in a lot of other interviews. Let's keep going.
The point you're raising, okay. And I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and
My fault. I was on mute. My apologies. But so this is my question. When you hear her say all these things, are y'all familiar that they got rid of a lot of Donald Trump's policies when it comes to the border? Like, were y'all aware of that? They got rid of these things. Are you aware of this program called Catch and Release, to where normally they would go about it doing it one way, and now when Biden and Harris came in, now they would catch people and just release them into the public rather than detaining them? They would actually release these people and say, hey, just come back on your court date. Just come back on this date. Were y'all aware of these policies, that they were changed? Because in all the other interviews, or at least my perception of it, when it came to Kamala or Joe Biden speaking on it, what does she keep saying? Oh, it was a broken border. Yeah, well, you got rid of certain policies that were, I don't know, plugging those leaks compared to, at least, I'm referring to when Trump was in office, compared to what happened when you guys just unplugged the leaks and the flood just came in. So is that something that she's held accountable for? Is that something that y'all hold her accountable for? Clearly, she's not accepting the responsibility, but I'm asking, just as you guys are watching it, as you guys are listening to it, is this something that you are aware of? And this is a great thing that the Fox journalist did, because I was not aware of some of these things. Let's keep going.
Increased penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
Six Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats.
I need y'all to look at this graph, this graphic. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. Bernie voted against it. And remember, Bernie's been one of the people coming out and saying that Kamala Harris is going to just say whatever she needs to get people's votes and then go back to being a totally different person when she actually gets elected. That's what Bernie Sanders has come out and said. I thought Cory Booker was her boy. He voted against it. Then you have Markey, Democrat, in Massachusetts, but then pay attention to the bottom line. What do you see? You see California, Arizona, border states. These are the people that voted against it. So while Kamala Harris runs around toting this bipartisan policy that would have solved everything at the border, solved everything that they messed up or that they took to it was already, let's say that it was already broken. They just destroyed it. So she always tries to make it seem as if everybody just agreed with it. I had no idea that Bernie voted nay. To me, that's considerable. Let me make sure that I'm catching up with the comments. So Mark, shout out to Mark Dietz in the building. So we got a bunch of new people on here. Yeah, shout out to Mark. Mark wrote the numbers quadrupled with Biden Harris. Quadrupled. I think that's something worth noting. And I don't think that people, for some reason, when I tell that to people that are just kind of Trump haters or fans of the Democratic Party, that doesn't resonate with them. It's like, do y'all realize that 4 times the amount of people came in? Think about what quadrupling is. That's going, instead of 100, there's 400. Instead of 1,000, there's 4,000. Imagine quadrupling your salary this month. How much of a significant difference that would be. And then think about migrants coming in and thinking, how would they even expect Border Patrol, like the same things that she's complaining about? Hey, the Border Patrol, they agreed with this policy. Well, yeah, they agreed with this policy. They probably would have agreed with any policy because they were so overwhelmed at that point in time. And if they thought the policy was a good policy, they probably wouldn't be endorsing Donald Trump right now. So she does a lot of, to me, it's a lot of manipulation. It's a lot of manipulation. And the only thing that I can think about, and y'all tell me if it's the same for you, do y'all have conversations with your family about politics? And I'm asking because do you know how hard it would be for somebody to not be obsessed, somebody who's not obsessed with looking at politics, somebody who's not on TikTok all day looking at it, on Instagram, on YouTube, listening to videos? Do we realize how hard it would be to look at a candidate, and I'm saying the Democrats, I'm talking about Kamala right now, to look at Kamala Harris and to truly understand certain things that are being said and to compare them to what has actually happened and to kind of take a deeper dive into a lot of these policies that she mentions? I mean, if you just listen to her, it would almost seem as if, yeah, you know, we put together an answer to this problem that's been a problem for a long time that nobody decided to address. And when we put the answer together, Donald Trump shut it down. That's pretty much her reason. Like, that's the answer that she gives when it comes to the border. So for somebody that's actually not looking at the other side's perspective, who's not going to do a deep dive on this stuff, I understand why they would have certain viewpoints to where they don't see how significant it is when it comes to voting for Kamala and supporting the Democratic Party based on just the things that Kamala is saying. Because those are the people that just hate Trump. They're not going to, you know, look at Fox News. They're not going to look at objective news stations, and most people don't. So I'm just sitting here thinking, like, damn, like this is probably going to be accepted by most people. And even most people looking at this interview right here, the responses that I got from a lot of people they were probably looking at clips, didn't look at the entire interview, but I heard multiple people like saying like, yo, she did him well. Like she would not be bullied. She stood her ground. She had an amazing interview. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, but do you know of one question that she answered? So I don't know. So Mark wrote, this bill was killed because it contained $60 billion for Ukraine and billions for Israel and still allowed 5,000 across per day, not because Trump gained politically. Mark, I'm 100% with you. And I do not understand, like, to me, it's weak leadership for you to blame why you couldn't get something done based on your opposition. That's like, it makes no sense. And of course, this is not a perfect analogy, but that's like being a Dallas Cowboys fan, or let's say you're a Dallas Cowboys player and you go to your coach and you weren't able to do your assignment. You weren't able to tackle somebody, let's say, and you went over to the coach and said, hey, coach, wasn't able to tackle him. He didn't let me tackle him. He just kind of like tried to spin out of it. And that's why I couldn't tackle him. Coach is like, wait, what? Like, and I know it's perhaps not the fairest analogy, but how do you just blame somebody else? That's part of the role. That's part of your responsibility. You have to be able to work with other groups and get them to buy into your programs and policies as well. You can't just be working with your team and expecting it to go smooth and to say like, oh, well, yeah, we pushed this bill through. And then when it doesn't go, just blame it on the Republicans, blame it on Donald Trump. How are you blaming it on somebody who's not even in office when you are in office and have been in office for the last 3.5 years? Like, why would we trust your leadership moving forward? Let's say you become president. Who's to say Donald Trump won't be petty and reach out to a lot of his people, as Kamala Harris always says, and shut down anything else that she passes through? And then she says that, oh, well, it won't matter. Well, I'm going to do an executive order. Well, you can do an executive order right now. Right now, because until this interview, everything that you've said regarding you and Joe Biden was that you wouldn't do anything differently. You said it on Colbert. You said it on The View. You said that nothing comes to mind, the things that you would do differently. So make it make sense. So Ant wrote, I don't normally appreciate Fox, but I appreciate how prepared this interviewer was. I'm trying to tell y'all. Well, I was about to say, go watch the full interview. We're watching the full interview. We're going to get through it. And I'm telling y'all, this man was prepared. It's almost as if he knew exactly what she was going to say and respond. And matter of fact, maybe he did, because just like Kamala Harris said on Charlamagne's show, she says the same rhetoric over and over. And that's her strategy. Ant wrote, I would wait 21K in the room. Hold up. Make sure. I don't even have it up, so it's not showing me. But make sure y'all take a second real quick to like. It's going to help the algorithm get as many people in here as we continue. Let's go. Wait, did I catch up with all the chats? Hold on. We got a couple more. So shout out to Big Bro Doug. He's saying good morning from Utah. I wish I was out there with him, but couldn't make the trip. So he's on a dope trip that I'm sure he'll explain to us either later on or on the next show. 25K in the building. Stop playing with us, man. Yo, need y'all to like. All right, so Mac Daddy wrote, also 3.5 years between talking points, overturned Trump policies in 2021 and blocked bill in 2024. 3.5 years of illegals flooding the country. Like what? And Mac Daddy, I'm right there with you. And the scariest part about what you just wrote is that you can say all these things. That's just another one of the things that you can say to people. And the majority of people, if they're not already voting for Trump, they're going to hear what you're saying. It's going to go in one ear, and it may not even go out the other ear. Matter of fact, it may not even go in that ear. It's like there's a block that they have. There's a block because, and maybe it's the same thing on the other side as well, but this is what I always say. Come with the breakdown and the facts, just like Brett did. Have a prepared interviewer. Because the things that I see Donald Trump going on, whether it's the National Association of Black Journalists, whether it's all these other platforms that he's going on, playing home games as well as away games, I do not hear them correcting him on things. Matter of fact, the fact checker at the debate when it was Kamala and Donald Trump, they were fact checking him, and then we had to fact check the fact checkers because they were fact checking him wrong in a lot of cases. Whether it came to abortion and things that he was talking about with the former governor of Virginia, all of these different things. And what did the Democrats just, they throw? Oh, well, he's going to do Project 2025. Him and his team say they're not associated to it, but does it matter? Like, that's what I'm trying to ask y'all. When y'all have these conversations with people that do not see the same way or are not as objective to the fact that, hey, maybe the Democrats are lying. Maybe Kamala is lying. And then even if they accept that, they'll get to the point where they'll say, well, everybody lies. Everybody does this. Okay, well, when you were just bashing Trump for lying, for doing all these things, but then when it's Kamala, it's, oh, everybody lies. Okay, I get it. All right, so Mark said, Bear could have dug a lot deeper. The damage on Kamala was inflicted by herself. That's an excellent point that you make. An excellent point that you make, Mark, because I think that he could have, think about it. He didn't even touch on the economy as much as I think he could have. Ant wrote, is this interview where she jumped ship on Biden in the last 4 years of Democratic Coventry saying this won't be a Biden democracy? This is that interview, Ant. She said that this will not be a continuation of the Joe Biden presidency. So this is the first time that she actually came out and made it official, but then this is when she was telling us to go to her website and look at the policies that are all of a sudden up there, or came a little bit later than people expected. All right, let's keep going with the interview.
Country a year, a lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
What if the solution was to just keep things the way that Trump had them because things didn't quadruple under his presidency? Like, do y'all see what's going on here? Or matter of fact, am I seeing it the right way? I don't understand this. This is a program that Trump did not have an issue with because he did not implement this catch and release program. He did not have the amount of numbers, the massive amount of migrants coming in here compared to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. But now she's trying to blame Trump. Like, this is insane. How are we accepting this? Matter of fact, not we. How are y'all? I'm talking to the people that support the Democratic Party, that support Kamala. How do you accept the fact that she and Joe Biden quadrupled this problem that she claims has been a problem for a very long time? And even her saying that it's been a problem for a very long time, it's like we forget that Democrats were in power the last 12 of 16 years. If it's been a problem for a very long time, whose fault is that? Maybe 8 of those years is Barack Obama's fault. The same Barack Obama that jumped up on here trying to tell black men that if we don't support Kamala, it's because we got an issue with black women, or women, I should say. Let me quote him correctly. So I don't understand. And then, to be totally fair to even Barack, the numbers were not what they were of people coming in here when I don't believe. As far as Kamala and Joe Biden's campaign, like, how are you able to create and worsen significantly a problem, but then blame somebody else for not accepting the solution to the problem that you quadrupled? Let me make sure I'm catching up with the comments. I told y'all I needed y'all in the comments. Y'all pulled through. So let me make sure that I'm catching up with everything. So Mac Daddy wrote, CNN muted JD when fact checked their fact check and realized he was smarter than them. There's a lot of people, and Mac Daddy, you may want, I recommend you going to check out. There's a few clips that we just put up, I think yesterday on JD Vance. It was from a show either on Monday or Wednesday. I think Wednesday's show. JD Vance is schooling these reporters. And I think all of them are realizing that he is a lot smarter than them. And he's able to articulate the things that he wants to say in a totally different way than Kamala or even Trump. Even Trump, he articulates his way, and he articulates his points in ways that I'm very impressed by. And I'm trying to think of somebody else that I would compare him to, but maybe I don't need to do that. I don't know if anybody comes to mind for y'all. Y'all let me know. But they are realizing very quickly that JD Vance is not with the BS. You're not going to just bring him on and think that you're going to outsmart him, think that you're going to outwit him, think you're going to bully him. He's very tactful, graceful, and knows how to finesse. And I say finesse not in a lying way. I'm saying he just knows how to convey his point in a way that is not going to get him all out of control, but it's going to make the person interviewing him who's trying to bait him look very foolish. That's what I would say. So Mark wrote, Kamala does rapid fire gaslighting to answer a question. Time restraints don't allow her opponent to rebut them all. So she lands a couple outright lies and twisting of words. Mark, I don't know. You must be in my life. You must be tied into my life because, and this is another reason why I asked y'all earlier, do you have these type of conversations with family and friends? Because, and this is the kind of the similar situation to what I was referring to with my boy that we were having like a conversation with, and he was kind of losing everybody yesterday. And they just refuse. It's like they're trying to take so long to answer the question that they have they're banking on a lot of the people watching. Like they're taking a lot of steam off the question. Almost when she talks about all these different things, all he asked was about one thing. And she's going on talking about like, well, this wouldn't have happened. Like I couldn't, ma'am, these people were people that were released under your leadership. Do you take responsibility for it? Yes or no? Urs wrote, shout out to my brother Urs. She's the one running on problems. LOL, she's in power now. This is Urs, I don't get it. Her main claim is, y'all hear her say it all the time, because Donald Trump would rather run on a problem than solve a problem. Ma'am, you didn't have to create the problem. You gave all of us a problem. And now you're mad that everybody doesn't agree with your solution to the problem that you gave all of us. Mac Daddy wrote 9 months ago, wouldn't have helped any of those girls. And that's a good point. Alana wrote, good morning. Hit the like button, guys. Lana in the building. Listen to my sis. She said, hit the like button. Y'all got to hit the like button. So Mark wrote, Kamala is a Marxist. Blame others for what you're doing to cause confusion. It works. I may really have to start looking into Marxism, because a lot of people that I respect are relating Kamala Harris's approach to Marxism and communism in a lot of ways. So that's something that maybe we should do a deep dive, because I'm not too experienced on Karl Marx and his theories. So maybe we should do a deep dive over the weekend regarding Marxism and maybe some communism, just to kind of give a surface level history and understanding of it. Ant wrote more than Lana. Urs wrote, the twisting of words is a psychological response that they're training her on. And this is another thing. It's funny that you say that, Urs, because when I tell people, I'm like, yo, she doesn't seem intelligent. And the reason why I'm saying she doesn't seem intelligent is because she can't possibly believe that this strategy that she's going about is working. But then I have to sit back and realize, it's not working for us. And when I say us, I'm talking about all of us that are in this chat right now, that whether this is your first day on the show or that you come consistently. And if this is your first day, then definitely make sure that you come consistently. But what I'm realizing is that all of this stuff that she's saying, just because it doesn't work for us, does not mean that it's not working for a whole bunch of other people in America. So it's almost like now I have to figure out where I got to look at it from two different lenses: the lens that we would look at it from, and maybe a lens of somebody who's maybe not as informed, or somebody who is not as objective. And when I say not as objective, I mean regarding the Democratic Party. Like, some people are just going to say anybody but Trump. Hard to be objective when you say that, because there's really only one person that is likely to win other than Trump. So I don't know. Well, let's keep going. So Mac Daddy wrote, problem didn't exist until they killed Remain in Mexico. Mac Daddy, can you give us a couple sentences on Remain in Mexico? Because I gotta, part of being a good student is asking people with the answers to provide more and more context, so the rest of us can have an understanding. So Mac Daddy, please, because I wasn't even as familiar. I'm gonna be totally honest. I wasn't familiar with Remain in Mexico, the catch and release programs. I wasn't familiar with those regarding these conversations. Just, I hadn't really heard a lot of people mention them. I'll be totally honest, or maybe I just wasn't hearing them. So Mark wrote, I do have these conversations. Some people still believe the news and don't realize they're being duped. That's the thing. And you tell me, y'all tell me, these people, even if you tell them that they're being duped, you know what? I'm gonna give you an example. And I think this would be considered gaslighting. So this, to me, is what happens. And this is what happened in a conversation yesterday night. It was a group of us guys on the call. We did our fellas call. Real quick, I promise you this won't. Hear me out on this. Sorry to go on this tangent. I said, as I always say on this show, I said, we're talking about relationships and the dynamics of a lot of women who take more powerful positions. And one of my other bros was saying that, a lot of the women that he talks to complain about men not being true leaders, not embracing the roles of protecting and providing, all these different things. So she jumps on, and I take full accountability and say, hey, look at even relationships. you know, men, like, I'm never going, because she was like, this real quick. She was saying that, I was saying that, hey, we're a certain group of people in America are not doing well. And she said, well, do you leave space for the reasons why they're not doing well? So I gave her an example. I said, even me talking to my homegirls that are Black, let's say Black women, and I talk to them and I say the things that I think that they're misled on and manipulated on, I still take full accountability, because I'm like, that means that we as men have had bad leadership to either entice you, to allow you to be enticed, to allow you to be incentivized, to allow you to see that the grass is much greener on that other side because of the lack of leadership that we've been giving and providing on this side. Do you know what she responded to me and said? She pretty much, and I'm going to give just an overall, you know, answer of what she said. She said, well, that's disrespectful. Do you give any women any agency in that? Because that's disrespectful, because you're acting as if women don't have the qualities to make their own decisions. And I'm like, ma'am, I just took full accountability for this situation, and you're telling me that, like, you're bashing me now for saying that I think less of women because I'm taking full accountability and us not being good leaders. Well, that's like I don't know. Matter of fact, let's get back to it. I told y'all only 30 seconds. It went a little bit longer than that. My apologies. So Mark wrote, a lot of Kamala's ideas come right out of communist and Marxist doctrine, not going back, a new way forward, etc. So are her financial ideas. Price fixing is communism and kills competition equals government power. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. There's certain people that want a lot of government involvement. And I think, and Mark, you tell me if this may be the reason why parties tend to shift. And anybody else, please give your opinion as well. So we've talked about on this show plenty of times saying that this may be a time where a lot of people, the parties are switching, where we're seeing certain people that used to align with the Democrats, now they're aligning with the Republicans, as well as vice versa. There's some Republicans that are supporting Kamala because they hate Trump so much, in my opinion. Now, when you have these type of situations, it's almost like the people at the bottom, or the people that are struggling, or the people that are not winning, they want this other entity to come in and play a role. They want more government power because it's going to benefit them when it comes to competing with the people that may already be winning. They want some assistance. You know what I mean? It's not like sports where the best team gets the worst draft pick and the worst team gets the best pick in a lot of these sports, whether it's football, basketball, y'all know what I'm saying. Like with the draft, the worst team gets the best pick to level out the playing field in some ways. That's not necessarily how capitalism works. So what ends up happening is the government, the people that are losing and the people that are not necessarily winning, they want more government involvement because it's going to benefit them and their party. The people that are winning, they're like, yo, we don't need, keep things the way they are. Like, we're good. We're good over here. Like, the rules have been set. We learned to play by the rules. If y'all didn't, then that's on y'all, but the rules are set. So that's kind of how I see the conflict. So, and now may be a time where things are shifting. And I don't know if it's because of government involvement, but when I go back to thinking about like the Dixiecrats and how certain Democratic people in the South ended up in the Republican Party, or at least that's what a lot of people say, this is kind of like one of those times where I'm thinking like, hey, is this one of those times where it's going to happen? Like, is there going to be a shift? Is there going to be one of those things where it's like, hey, this group who didn't want government control, now they want it, and vice versa? So I don't know. These are just the thoughts that go on in my head. So Ursi wrote, the Remain in Mexico policy required asylum seekers to stay in Mexico while awaiting U.S. immigration court decisions. Correct. And what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden did was they implemented the catch and release program, correct? So instead of them remaining in Mexico until they awaited the U.S. immigration court decisions, they were releasing them in America. So you're releasing people that already made the decision to try to get over here illegally. And now you're going to release them into America and just hope like, hey, like imagine a bail bondsman, totally different situation, whatever. You're going to release them and just say, hey, can you make sure that you come back to get a decision? Bro, these people, like, come on now. You already came here illegally. You already risked everything to get here illegally. Now you think people are going to try to go back to court instead of remaining in Mexico. And what a lot of the border agents have even discussed with a lot of the kids get lost in the system and get lost in the country. That's why a lot of people are saying there's a lot of child sex trafficking going on at the border, because I believe, don't quote me, but I believe that kids under 14, they're not even put into the system. So they get over there. There's no like, hey, we got to check your passport. We got to check your ID. We got to check these things to even see if this person that I'm saying as I'm trying to cross the border illegally, oh, this is my daughter, this is my son. There's no way of checking those things. And then we're just saying like, all right, well, you got a court date at this date. Just come back and we'll see you then. It's almost like it's almost to the point where it's very ignorant and naive of us to think that this was not just a plan to get the most amount of people that they could in the country. Like, I almost feel ignorant even looking at it a different way. Ant wrote, God bless the patience you have. I don't have the bandwidth to converse with folk who can't think objectively. Bro, yeah. All right. I want to say so much more, but another day, another show. So Urs wrote, Biden-Harris signed over 90 executive orders day one in office, overturning about 70 Trump executive orders, shaking my head just out of spite. Urs. And these are this is what people don't realize, that when Biden and Harris came in, they signed orders to get rid of Trump's orders. And a lot of those orders were protecting our border. And then they sit here and wonder, like, have you ever heard Kamala or Joe Biden? And of course, you won't hear them say that. You won't even hear the people that are interviewing them on these friendly platforms that they go on say, well, you guys decided to terminate Trump's orders that kept the border at least a lot safer than it was when you guys came in, and you guys put in certain policies that quadrupled the amount of numbers, the people coming in. And not only did it quadruple, but you put into play this policy of catch and release, and got rid of what Urs was talking about would remain in Mexico. All right, so Mac Daddy said they have to stay in Mexico until fully vetted. Now they're released in the U.S. without vetting. Can you imagine that? And and Mac Daddy, I know this is your first time joining, I believe it is. We've showed so many videos of how Barack, Biden, and these people, they've contradicted themselves on the border, whether that was Barack, Biden, and Nancy Pelosi saying that we needed a border wall. I'm sorry, they said fence, that we needed a fence to keep people out. But Trump, I guess, when he started pushing the wall, then they just had to get on the opposing side. So how can you allow people into this country that are not being vetted? Like, how does that make sense? Don't you have an obligation to the people, the American citizens that are here, to protect them, to do the vetting? That's like, imagine your kids. So I'm gonna give two examples. Imagine you have kids in the household and they just bring in some pets off the street. Now people are going to say, well, why they got to be wild pets? They're immigrants. That doesn't mean they're wild. I'm just making an analogy. Relax. Let's say that they bring in some pets that are not wild, but are just lost pets. All right. I'm not saying they're bringing in wild turkeys and stuff like that. I'm saying, let's say they brought in a lost dog. Your family going to look at, I would assume most families would look at like, yo, do you know anything about this dog? Does this dog have shots? Like, before you're going to take certain precautions before you just allow the dog to just be hanging out with the family and the kids and all that. I would assume. Now imagine that kid bringing in another kid into the household and just saying like, hey, yeah, this kid, they didn't like staying at their home, so they're going to live with us now. That is essentially what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have done. And then to say, yeah, well, instead of vetting you and making sure that, that you are a certain type of person before we allow you in, or that maybe you're not a certain type of person before we let you in, we're just going to look at it and just say, you know what, just, you can just stay here, relax, kick your feet up a little bit. And then, we'll have another court date that you can come to, and, we'll figure out our answer by then. It just doesn't make sense. And like Quee said, some people just like to argue. That's a fact. That's a fact. Don't even listen. Had their mind made up. That's what's happening. Ant said 32K. I can't see the numbers, so I need y'all to keep leaving the feedback. Yo, Need y'all to like the video. Please like the video. That's going to have as many different people. We need more and more perspectives in this conversation for a lot of different reasons. One, because, we got to start helping people wake up, and I'm not talking about the woke stuff that they call it now. I'm talking about just being able to see things a little just more clearly. So Mark wrote, I think young folks see no hope to succeed. So they look to government to survive. Perhaps us older folks need to understand why they feel that way. Bruh, Mark, where you from, man? Where you from? I feel like, so Mark, this is how it normally happens. So normally when we have new people come in, it's very Kanye, getting his induction or into the rock, with Dame Dash. We usually give you a chain, let you know, like, he a part of the OG network now. But I think, can we do an executive order on this to let Mark be a part of the team? Can we do an executive order and avoid a vote? Just to get, because everything that Mark is saying is spot on, and you're giving us a lot of context and a lot of information that we need. So think about what Mark just said. He thinks that young folks see no hope to succeed, so they're relying on the government to survive. We see a lot of that with the victimhood. Victimhood is in style, perhaps now more than ever. But the second point that you brought up, Mark, which is perhaps us older folks need to understand why they feel that way. This is something that I talk to my parents about, I talk to my friends about, talk to my family about. If the younger generations are not doing well, just like in the conversation I was telling y'all about, if the people that are following the leaders are hopeless, don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, don't see a way that they can be successful, this is something that the leaders have to take heed to and understand. And in a lot of ways, when I say understand, accept some responsibility and accountability for it. It's no different than a parent looking at their kids and their kids are messing up in life. You got to take some responsibility in that. They're kids. When they become adults, if they make certain decisions, that's different. But when we have a younger generation that feels so hopeless right now, it creates a lot of problems. One, they're willing to follow anything that they feel emotionally inspired by. So therefore, they're more likely to be caught up in these emotional agendas that play into. So, hold on. Not sure what happened there. So it causes a lot of issues, and that's something that we have to take accountability for. And to be totally honest, if you're in your late 20s to maybe your 50s, it's on us to start implementing some of those plans and to start thinking about the world that we're going to leave to the younger generation. Like, it's about that time. Maybe it's been that time. So let's keep going. Mark wrote, others are switching because they see that Kamala is the face of the establishment warmongers, and for all his faults, Trump isn't. He brought no new wars, for example. This is what, what's so funny, and it's just another example of how we are such emotional beings. Think about the words that are used to describe Donald Trump. Hitler. He's unhinged, fascism, all these different words that are used to describe him. We can't trust him. Like, he's liable to just go start a war or say anything to these leaders. But we're acting as if he wasn't president already. We're acting as if he's the first president in a long time where we didn't have all of these international conflicts. We didn't have them. He wasn't a warmonger. There's a clip that I forget exactly what Donald Trump said it on, but there's a clip that I saw where he was talking about all the different ways that there are to make money. He said there's so many ways for our government to make money. We don't need to be doing all these other things. We don't need to be laundering money, starting wars just so we can launder money to where we can say, hey, we're giving $100 billion to this particular country. And in all actuality, all that $100 billion is actually going towards the U.S. military industrial industry to create more weapons to send to them. We're not sending them money. We're sending ourselves money. We're paying ourselves to give them guns. We're paying ourselves to give them sandwiches and food that they need support for. That is why the U.S. This war between Israel and Palestine, it seems that a lot of people are so on board because they see how much money can be made, and maybe even more so with the Ukraine war. I don't know, but we all know that these wars can be very profitable to certain individuals at the expense of the people. So Urs wrote, she said, we have always had a border crisis. We have had a border crisis, but never we have had border issues, but never a crisis. That's a good point. Millions of people got in undocumented. That's beyond a crisis. Yeah, we got to figure out a way to call it different things. We can't call it the same thing. So Bez wrote, should the children of illegals who came here be sent back to their parents' origin country? Should the children of well, it depends on what you mean. If they come in with their parents? If they come in with their parents, then they should be, I would assume that if their parents get sent back, then they would have to be sent back. I think that's what a lot of people, and that's a tough one that you bring up. It's an excellent question that you bring up, Bez, because that's a tough one. It's a tough one, especially when you do catch and release. What do you do with the kids? In my opinion, there has to be some form of program that, because if not, it's going to be a big sex trafficking issue, in my opinion. It's going to be a huge issue. Now, sending the kids back to their country, it's almost as if, what problems do we want to take on? And what type of infrastructure do we have to take on other countries' problems? I think that's the question that needs to be asked. From a moral standpoint, that's a tough one, because who wants to send kids back to a country that a lot of people are fleeing? But then you have to ask yourself, whose responsibility is that? And how old are these kids that were good? Let's say if certain kids are kept over here, and I guess one suggestion or one way to handle it would be them to enter the foster care system. So let's say if their parents don't get in, and the kids, let's say any kid under 10. But let's say what age are we now deciding to let kids? So, and then how do we know the kids' ages? How do we know? Are we just eyeballing it? A lot of people are coming over with no ID. So at what age? How do we identify what age? It's a problem. This is part of the problem. But Bez, this is a problem when you incentivize people to come over here. When you say, hey, we got an open door policy, pretty much. You're incentivizing people to come here to create a problem, something that's going to be a significant problem. So now you created one problem, and now we have even bigger problems because you guys incentivize people to come here. So it's a tough situation. Off the top of my head, it's definitely going to be it's going to be one of those conflicting decisions from a moral standpoint, because a lot of these people coming over, let's say, I don't know the exact amount, but the kids, it is tough. It is tough, man. It is tough. So I'm just being honest. Like, I'm just giving you my real-time definition. I don't know exactly, but to me, we'd have to try to figure out a way to first create an age, if that's what we're going to do, if we're going to accept certain kids. But then in my opinion, are we incentivizing now younger kids to make that journey, that dangerous journey or whatever it may be, to come over? So I don't know. I'd have to spend a little bit more time on it. All joking aside, like what do you think? What would your approach be to it? Bez, like, what would your approach be to the same question that you just asked? Should the children of illegals who came here be sent back to their parents' origin country? So Mark wrote, what a great channel. Appreciate you, bro. How have I not found you before? Great hosts and knowledgeable commentators. Appreciate that. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the last part, because it's you said, when you said how have I found you, how have I not found you before? It's a us thing, and you're in that us. So and this is the only way that the conversations are going to be able to grow, with knowledgeable commentators. So yes, let's be very clear that knowledgeable commentators, people. That's why I always say, like, this channel or this show that we have, or this community that we have, is a bubble in a lot of ways. We have to realize that we're living in a bubble. Things can make so much sense to us. But we're just, to the majority of people, it may not be that way. Shoot, I'm so late. Hold on. Let me catch up on these. My fault. I don't know if I'm going to be able to catch up on all these. Yo, hold on. All right. let me try to get through these real quick. Ernst wrote, that's the same rhetoric Biden-Harris ran on. The immigrant children are being separated. Blame that on their parents. Yeah. Ant wrote, Mark on point. Let's get Mark a chain. We got to get Mark a chain. And Ernst, you already know which chain we got to get. Mine broke. I have to go to the jeweler to get mine fixed. But we already know what chain we got to get him. Mark about to pull a Kamala. Just kidding. Mark speaking facts too. Facts. I'm Canadian. So I'm Canadian from Calgary, but love America too. Yo, I used to live in Canada, bro. I was in Hamilton for 2 years. And one of my close bros, so Queez, so a lot of people may know Ace. Ace was playing up in Calgary. So one of our big bros is playing up there. 40K in the building. Yo, make sure y'all hit the like. That's going to boost the algorithm. Y'all know what it is, yo. I love this. Ant wrote, I always wanted to ask a Canadian what changes they have witnessed when they lax their visa requirements, allowing more people in. Yeah, there's a matter of fact, Ant, you brought that up, and I know you brought it up a few minutes ago, and I'm just very late, but I want to address it because there's a lot of ways, like we can look at Canada for a lot of these things because they're a very progressive country as well. So maybe something that we should look into is how a lot of these progressive policies impact Canada in some ways. Now, the difference is there's not as many Americans that are trying to get into Canada as there are with Central Americans and Southern Americans trying to get into America. So it may not be as relevant, but definitely something to consider. Sick of the Project 2025 BS2. I'm sick of it. Like, stop it. Like, this is the only thing that y'all can run on. This entire interview that we're still going to get through, she's talking about Donald Trump and the Republicans using fear mongering in order to get people to vote for them. Ma'am, this is exactly what y'all have done with Project 2025. You're trying to fear us with this boogeyman under the bed that they're saying that, you know, we don't even have it. Like, we've never even read this thing. Like, so apparently there's some good things in it. Apparently there's some bad things in it. What do y'all want me to say on it? So Mark wrote, Mac Daddy, that is the constant gaslighting Kamala does with her 2025 BS. So we got two. We need 2 chains. One for Mac Daddy, one for Mark. We need 2 chains. Children born here from illegals. So I'm not sure. Oh, you're saying children that are born here. Okay, so the rule, so I believe, okay, so now I know what Bez is saying. So children that are born here when illegals come in. So this is what I would say, Bez. This is why it's so important for those people to remain in Mexico and not do the catch and release. The catch and release is allowing you to come into America. So yeah, now you can be about, let's say you're going to get you're 8 months pregnant. Now you're incentivizing women to come here and they just want to have their babies in America so that their children are American citizens. That's the catch and release program. But remain at the border does not allow them to come to America before they have their court. So that's kind of, so maybe I'm given the right, or maybe I'm off a little bit. You guys can correct me. So Ant wrote, no, if you're born here, you're born here. Yeah, if you're born here, you're born here. Like that's the thing. So that's why. Okay, so we're on the same page. Mac Daddy wrote, Kamala's a narcissist. She claims Trump is inciting fear, yet she keeps bringing up Project 2025. I agree completely. 45, 30K in the building. Make sure y'all like. Anthony, I'm in Alberta. The most conservative place on earth. We are being overwhelmed with migrants to change the demographics and hence the vote. So Alberta is, and I'm glad. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was living in Hamilton and Alberta, Calgary, very far from Hamilton. Hamilton is right next to New York, right across the border. So like the Buffalo border or Rochester, that area. So so now I'm learning, Mark. So in your area, it's a lot more conservative. In areas like a Toronto, or let's say where the prime minister, I think Justin Trudeau is still the prime minister, where the prime minister's from, or where he's mostly in like the Ottawa, Montreal area, right? So that's a little bit different than going up north and out west, maybe to where Calgary, the Albertas are. I think that's more out west. So you correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but that's a very interesting thing. So you're in the most conservative place, but you're being overwhelmed with the migrants to change the demographic. Wow, I did not know that y'all were experiencing that. Wow, I did not know that. Sarah, shout out to Sarah. Get out and vote. Red all the way. All right, Sarah said, get out and vote. Red all the way. 45K in the happened? All right, so Gina, so shout out to the new people coming in. Please, 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 please continue to like. It's going to help more and more people come in. So Gina wrote, where are the migrant kids missing since 2021 failed border czar Harris? Why is she anti-kids in or out of the womb in America? So perhaps they're trying to bring in some the next generation one way or another. That's like, and that's something that's brought up a lot of times with the LGBTQ community, where it's like they have to, and we've played certain videos where it's like, yo, they got to come after your kids because a lot of times they're not having kids. So very interesting, very interesting. Dowhart said, happy Friday, brother or sister. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I just assume. My apologies if I'm off. Gina wrote, where are the 320,000 migrant kids missing since, oh my God, 320,000 migrant kids missing since 2021. Wait, I know I just read that twice, but I didn't even catch the first part. Damn. Oh, that was a different comment. All right, so I wasn't tripping. It was a different comment. I'm like, did I not catch that on the first one? Okay, so that was a different comment. Where are the 320 migrant kids missing? Damn, that's a lot. That's a lot. Only 45 can keep America alive to thrive in 2025 and beyond. Marxism is just a holistic blue vote away. Come on, stop calling me, bro. I came here from the Philippines. So Sarah wrote, I came here from the Philippines legally. And Sarah, this is the thing. So Sarah, you bring up, I'm glad that you just gave us that info, because this is how I look at it, Sarah. And we had this conversation regarding another topic. Let's say, what was the topic? It was on forgiving student loans. So I may connect it to that, may not, depending on how this goes. So this is something that, like, I think about all the time. How do the people that came here legally, that went about the process in a legal way, in a patient way, that did all the right things and gained their legal citizenship, how do you feel about now Kamala Harris and Joe Biden deciding to pretty much just open the door and grant citizenship in a much more lenient way than has typically been done throughout with the legal process? Like, how do you feel about that? It's almost like you're incentivizing people to commit crimes and do it in an illegal way compared to incentivizing people to do it in a legal way. And am I missing something on that? And I'm not going to make the connection to student loan forgiveness, but there was something there. But y'all know I like to connect dots that are not always, you can't. And then sometimes they're not visible to the blind eye, but I see them. So Mark wrote, Canada is basically done. Damn. Trudeau ruined us in 8 years, and America should realize that Kamala is Trudeau 2.0. Same jargon and empty feel-good platitudes, but zero skills and a globalist at heart. And this is why Donald Trump appeals to a lot of people that perhaps the Democratic Party did not anticipate him appealing to. This is why a lot of people that are traditionally Democrats are seeing that, hey, we may need to go Trump because this America First policy that he's on, we agree with it. Why are we involved in all of these other wars and funding all of these other countries when our economy, and I know a lot of people like to tout this is the best economy. I'm talking about our economy as far as how it impacts Americans, the average citizen. We can't afford certain things based on inflation and based on the value of our dollar just not meaning as much. So when we have these situations, I don't know. I don't know. So many thoughts come to mind. But it's going to be interesting. All right, let me keep going because I was getting ready to go off on another tangent. Urs wrote, Canada is being run with Marxist-like policies and it's facing significant challenges due to poor decision-making. Uncompetitive in the building. Shout out to the regulars too. Hi there. I'm starting to suspect that Kamala doesn't want the job and throwing the election. Interesting. Ant wrote, right. I remember Alberta being pretty far north from Ice Road Trucker Show. It's interesting they're seeing a large influx of migrants, but I also assume it's a blue collar town. Interesting. Canada elections are different. It's first past the post, so the East dictates who is prime minister because of population. Okay. Okay, we got to look into that. Appreciate you giving us that insight, because it's important for us to learn how things are done in different countries, especially some of those countries that we may be heading in that direction. So Ant wrote, let's get that interview back up. See, I got you. I got 2 more comments. I feel the same way I feel about these student loans. They're forgiving. LOL. Terrible. I paid mine off. Where's my refund? Ernst, that's where I was going to go, but I didn't want to do it. All my Canadian friends are hurting due to True Dow's policies. All right, let's get back to the interview. I don't know how to handle all these comments. I feel bad if I don't read all of them. So let's keep going. What is Kamala talking about? I'll go back.
Working around the clock, trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss.
All right. Am I just being a stickler, or was that not an apology? And I'm not saying that she has to apologize, but it's the appearance, like it's always the half stepping for me. It's like, I'm so sorry for your loss is not apologizing or taking accountability and responsibility for playing a role in it. Or am I missing that?
Sincerely.
Sincerely.
But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness?
There's a mother of a child. She said that the person who killed her child was released, and 3 weeks later, that's when they killed her child. And Kamala Harris does this, I'm sorry for her loss, apology, or I don't know if it's an apology, and then goes right back to Trump.
I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need.
Why do we need those things, ma'am? Like, I think that's what we're reaching for. That's what we're trying to get you to acknowledge. Why do we need them? And Ant, what did I tell you the other day when I had my epiphany? When you throw that button there, man, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
More resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett. Well, that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
there were 90-plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys.
Man. Yeah. if what you're saying is true and the border people are aware of it, like just think about this. The Border Patrol endorsed Donald Trump. Kamala Harris is blaming Donald Trump for quadrupling the amount of people coming in. So when she sits here and says, yeah, they need support. Yes, they need support. They need an overwhelmingly amount of more support because of your policies and because of the things you got rid of that Trump had in play. So let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get.
And why would they support Donald Trump still if they really believe the people at the border know what's going on? So if they really believe that this bipartisan bill that Kamala Harris always touts as this would have solved the problem and Donald Trump wants to run on the problem instead of solving the problem. If that was the case, are the Border Patrol people just silly? Like, do they just not understand the issues as much as you, who's only been there once, maybe I think in the last few weeks? That's the first time that you went down there. I don't know if you went down there before. Apparently you were the border czar. Then you try to act like you're not the border czar. So do the people at the border, are they more aware of what's going on at the border than Kamala Harris? So if they're supporting Donald Trump, what does that say not only about her leadership overall, what does that say about this bipartisan bill that she supposedly was going to pass, that they actually said, apparently they said that, hey, we'll take it. What does that say that they are endorsing Donald Trump? And she's giving, yeah, I get it. They're frustrated. Get
it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
I got to run that back. Hold on. I got to run back that entire exchange.
And I'm very
healthcare to qualify for immigrants. There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen.
And know who's paying for those things.
That was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
Ma'am, you are making policies. This is insane. She's running for president saying, hey, I'm going to follow the law. Like that's real. Okay, so then anybody can run. We need people in play that are going to adjust certain things that need adjusting, to change and destroy certain things that need to be changed and destroyed, and to implement new policies that put us in a better place as a country. And she's over here hiding behind, yeah, I'm going to follow the law. You know, I've been very clear on where I stand. No, if you thought that way 5 years ago, explain where you are now and explain why you got from where you were 5 years ago to now. Is that unreasonable?
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
Queez got him.
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are...
This is the problem with all of this. This is the problem with all this. When it's in her best interest, she disassociates with the current administration. He just said that just like she was against fracking, and because Joe Biden was with fracking, you know, after she became his vice president, she said, oh, well, Joe Biden's not going to end fracking. He's asking her how she felt about something in 2019 when it was her voicing how she felt about things. not her being part of another administration and being the vice president to Joe Biden's presidency. So the reason why we're asking these questions, and the reason why, well, he's asking these questions and I want to know the questions, and I assume all of y'all want to know as well, is because once she's the person that's now in power to make the executive orders, to implement a lot of the policies that may be aligned with how she thought, we're questioning those things. Because now, even in this interview, she said that her presidency will not be a continuation of the Biden presidency. So if that's the case, are you going to do what Bernie Sanders said you were going to do? Just use whatever talking points you need to in order to gain the support from people and to ease them and to appeal to more moderates. But then once you get in office, are you going to be more extreme based on how your personal views came out when you were not tied to President Biden?
Solutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel, to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support?
So this is what, remember we played the video, even Charlemagne gave that ad. I don't know whether I say gave credit, but he said that it was very impactful, and it had him looking at it like, yo, what? She's trying to do what? Now, of course, we know Charlemagne is Team Kamala all the way, but let's see how she's going to answer this direct. And I'm glad the ad included the things that she actually said. Let's see how she wiggles out of this.
Of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender.
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think—
Wait, medical necessity basis? That seems to be different than what she was saying, unless I'm just off. I don't know.
Frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries happened during his presidency.
Well, you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgery.
I'm going to run that back 5 seconds. She's trying to talk over him, saying that you have to be responsible for what happened in your administration, and listen to what he's saying as she's saying that. Like I said, bro was prepared.
That ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on
it was
plans for
different,
the
but
American
we'll move
people,
on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker,
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people
inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page.
Yeah. This is we are comparing how life actually was to her plans. Think about it. And this, I'm gonna be totally honest. How do we weigh plans at anywhere near the same value that we do? Like, we have the experience of what the economy was when Donald Trump was here. Can you imagine how, if there wasn't obviously a worldwide crisis in COVID, we already saw Donald Trump bring a booming economy and input a lot of these tariffs that the Kamala Harris and Biden administration continued to do so because they saw that it was making good money. We already felt what it was to have Donald Trump as president. So now we're supposed to go a separate way. Well, and we feel what it's like having Kamala Harris in an administration with Joe Biden, that she's clearly said that she wouldn't, nothing comes to mind. I wouldn't do anything differently. I was actually involved in all of the major decision making. But now we're supposed to, and see, this is the difference. I'll be totally honest. And she's being very misleading because I forget the company that came out that made it very clear that her touting her policy is all these people, Goldman Sachs, I think it was the Goldman Sachs CEO, where he came out and said, like, yeah, I know Kamala Harris is running around saying, like, yeah, we said that her policy was much better. It was like the difference between the two were like, it was fractional. But let's say that it was fractional and she had a better one. Donald Trump, and I know a lot of y'all people say that he's not a successful businessman. He has bankruptcies. Well, maybe that shows the lack of understanding of business with people who don't have them. The more I study successful people, there's a lot of people that were successful in business that did bankruptcies. Matter of fact, that's one of the strategies that they use in order. We're not going to get to that. So that's over there. But my point is that Donald Trump is somebody who seems to be able to pivot. Like, that's what a lot of this business stuff is. It's like you could set as much of a business plan. You could have the perfect business plan and have it written out on fancy paper and presented well on a PowerPoint and all that stuff. But what happens when something changes? How are you going to adjust? How are you going to move outside your plan? No different than a game plan in sports. What happens when somebody gets injured? What happens when, hey, those plays that we thought they're just not working out, that team actually adjusted as well? You have to be able to adjust on the fly and adapt on the fly. So going back to Donald Trump, maybe those were some of the reasons why he was able to have a successful economy, that it felt like a successful economy from the actual people, because our dollars were going a lot longer. Our dollars meant more when Donald Trump was in office compared to her and Joe Biden being in office. But apparently she has a plan that's going to make everything great.
On the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump, people are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years? There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing.
So basically, now she's taking Donald Trump's approach because she was not in Washington. No, you were in California. Donald Trump's the person that was not a career politician. Donald Trump was the person that first brought people on his team. She could say that she's been on stage with Republicans all she wants. Donald Trump has brought RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, two of our favorite, let's just be real, two of the people that, and I don't want to mess anybody up and sway anybody. Certain people may have strong opinions about, especially with RFK Jr., but two people that were very intriguing. Can I say intriguing? Very intriguing, who left the Democratic Party, and Donald Trump did not wait until he got in office to say, hey, you guys support me. I'll give you guys a position. We'll figure out, something when I get in office. He's platforming them now. They are running around talking about the things that are important to them now. RFK Jr. is talking about the food industry. We talk about this stuff all the time, the stuff that really matters. She's talking about a lot of stuff. What matters more than our health and us becoming healthier individuals? So therefore, we're not giving all of our money to Big Pharma, BlackRock, and all these other corporations that rely on us being stupid, sick, and broke. This is what the people rely on us being stupid, not intelligent, us being broke, not having any money and needing the government to help us out, and us being sick. So therefore they can sell us medicine that's not going to solve anything, but it's just going to, hey, you'll be good, but you just got to take this for the rest of your life. Oh yeah, you used to be just diabetic, but hey, we figured out how we can get them on medicine earlier because we'll just create this new category called pre-diabetic. Well, what exactly does it mean? Well, it means that you're not diabetic, but your numbers indicate that you may eventually one day. So just start taking the medicine now. Now we're going to scare the hell out of people. So now their blood, now they're going to become diabetic.
Addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot.
And this goes back to Queez. Follow the money. This goes back to Queez. Follow the money. That means following who's supporting these candidates, who's the money supporting them, and then who are the people. So who exactly are the Republicans? Why didn't she mention the names of the Republicans that are standing on stage with her? Perhaps it's because of what Mark said. The warmongers like the Cheneys, Romney, Bush all support Harris. Meanwhile, the anti-war folks like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, who actually served in the military and is disgusted by all of these wars that we continue to get in, why are they now supporting Trump? And this is what I mean, why it seems like there seems to be a party shift going on, where the Democrats used to be the party of anti-war, not wanting to get involved in other people's stuff. And now they just, Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, all these different situations that they're getting in. They're literally sending missiles to Israel and sending sandwiches to Palestinians. It's like, how is this making sense? BlackRock. Yeah, how is this making sense? All right, let's keep going.
About those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam Vice President.
You and I both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that...
That may be one of the funniest parts of this interview. The funniest parts of the interview. She just said something that I don't know about y'all. I had no idea what she was talking about. I'm like, yo, does she know something? Does Brett know something? Like, what? I'm going to play it again. Listen to her response. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, the country, 79% of the people in the country are saying that we are heading in the wrong direction. You've had 3.5 years of leadership. And her response is, yeah, well, Donald Trump's been running for a long time. Like, you know what I'm talking about. Let's listen to this exchange again.
Separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people
you're the
have
lever
become...
of power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked.
Yo, this is insane. she's a part of the same party. She's talking about turning the American military into, hold on, let me make sure. Let me grab this notepad because I want to make sure that I talk about a couple things. First and foremost, am I missing something? Like she keeps saying like this America within thing. What am I missing? Because I don't see why that's such a big problem. If Donald Trump feels that there's a problem within, like, and in most cases, when there's a huge problem in a corporation, on a team, we always talk about like different cancers on teams that are preventing people from being successful. A lot of times it's the people that are within, looking internally before you look externally to solve whatever problems. So when Donald Trump says that it's the problem within, well, am I missing something? Like, is he being a traitor by saying that? Or I'm missing that. I'm completely missing that. And then the fact that she has the nerve to say all these things, this is the same person that Mark Zuckerberg came out and wrote that letter saying that the Biden-Harris administration was censoring certain things, that information, some that was coming from doctors, some that were coming from experienced people when it came to what was going on in 2020. I don't want to say it because sometimes they've taken down some of our videos because we talk about it. So y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the jab. They censored. This is the type of woman that censored information that did not align with their political agenda of trying to get everybody to take this jab. They censored information so that we would not be able to be well informed. And the only information that we would be receiving on these social media platforms are things that are in favor of where they stood regarding 2020, the jab, and overall the vid. Think about that. What type of person does that? So now we're only able to get biased information on social media, which used to be our only outlet and resource to get the non-biased information that we're seeing on mainstream news platforms. So if we don't have that, you are intentionally manipulating and brainwashing the people when they're making a decision that impacts something that could change their lives, could change their kids' lives, and could kill them in a lot of ways. Your health. So her willing to do that and then making all these claims about Donald Trump, I'm like, it's not landing with me. It's not landing with me.
That's the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy.
If you're censoring information, you are an enemy within. If you're censoring certain information that is preventing me from making a logical health decision for me and my family, you are an enemy within. Am I seeing that wrong? And it's so amazing how Zuckerberg put out that letter and it's like nobody cared. It's like nobody cared at all about it. Like you're
within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you.
That was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat.
All right. Strong, I guess she's putting her foot down. So let's go. So she just accused him of not playing the actual answer. So I want to share the answer. So this is something, and I'm actually going to play something on MSNBC. So this is what this is Morning Joe. So I want to play this because they were complaining that the interview was not fair and balanced, as if everything has been fair and balanced, like as if the fact checking at the debate between Trump and Kamala was fair and balanced. But it is what it is. We know how they operate. So look at this. I'm like, okay, let's listen to the full answer. If Trump said, if they tried to play something that wasn't a full answer, let's listen to the full answer. And I wasn't, hopefully this is on at the right time frame, because I wasn't even going to play this. But I think it's important as we're listening to it. Let's play it and see what actually happened.
Issue of abortion, claiming it'll just work.
Wanted it for years, and now it's working its way out in the states. No.
I want to get to that
Over
exact
the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump.
Hold on one second. If I can find it, this is what I'll do. I'll actually look through it. I'll find it, and then I'll allow you guys. I don't want to take too much time, so I'll allow the interview to keep going, and then when I find it, I'll play it, if that's cool with y'all.
To the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump.
The significance of that.
Call Donald Trump.
All right, let's not diminish the significance of it. I think I found it. Hold on.
Former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice, that he is to be a leader who spends full time and it being about him.
And supporting him. Why is he beating him?
What God, is it? I would never say this. An enemy.
Part of the story. What was equally dismaying was another piece of the phony playbook that came earlier in the day, in the form of a fluffy town hall, if you call it that, with Donald Trump and a hand-picked audience that appeared to have been all MAGA, many thanking him for gracing them with his presence. As for the content, well, Trump lied to the audience about the issue of abortion, claiming it'll just work itself out. It'll be okay. You're good.
Now it's where everybody has wanted it for years. Anybody, they're the ones doing the threatening.
There it is right here. I got it.
On the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
And that's another point that I missed out earlier on. She's acting as if Donald Trump, she's like, he's turning the American military on the American people. You and your team have turned these government agencies on Donald Trump to try to lock him up so he can't run against you.
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated.
That's right.
He didn't.
We're going to listen to the full clip.
And people, he is democracy, and he is
to go after. And in his Fox-friendly town hall, Trump doubled down on that. This time actually naming names. But that's not the clip they showed Kamala Harris. And the vice president called out Fox News on Fox News.
She called out Fox News on Fox News. So y'all listen to the full answer. And y'all listen to the full answer. I don't want to give any bias before y'all listen to it. So this was the full question and answer.
The full clip they should have shown.
I wasn't unhinged. You know what they are? They're a party of sound bites. Somebody asked me, can they be brought together? You know, I never thought really, I wasn't thinking like they could, because they're very, very different. And it is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists, and they're sick. I use a guy like Adam Schiff because they made up the Russia hoax. It took 2 years to solve the problem. Absolutely nothing was done wrong, et cetera, et cetera. They're dangerous for our country. We have China, we have Russia, we have all these countries. If you have a smart president, they can all be handled. The more difficult are, the Pelosi's, these people, they're so sick. and they're so evil. If they would spend their time trying to make America great again, it would be so easy to make this country great. But when I heard about that, they were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
All right.
They're the threat to democracy.
It's simply another sign of what appears.
Yo, keep in mind, this is MSNBC, and I'm going back to the other one. She just played that. Y'all tell me. I almost wish that Fox played the entire thing. To me, that makes Donald Trump look even better than the small clip that they showed because it gives more context to what he's saying. She tried to play that as if, oh my God, look what Fox News did. They only played a smaller part of the clip. The larger clip is more favorable for Donald Trump, in my opinion. But let's keep going. I just wanted to play that. Maybe it didn't hit as much as I thought it would. My apologies. Let's keep going.
He's misguided. You say now
He's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand.
Is this important to y'all? Because it's important to me because it just shows y'all manipulated this thing. You manipulated from the beginning. There should be an open primary process. If Joe Biden was not going to be running again, there's an open primary that should have happened. Kamala Harris was just giving this nomination. She was given the nomination. They were scared. They did not want to have an open primary. We've talked about this plenty of times. They did not want to have an open primary because then a guy like RFK Jr. would have a bigger platform than they wanted him to give. Perhaps Tulsi Gabbard would still be with the Democrats and would have a bigger platform and go against the quote unquote, or what do they call it? Not the swamp, or go against the establishment. You know, they wanted Kamala there because they knew she would be the puppet that they can control and that she would continue whatever agenda the Barack Obama-led Democratic Party would be in favor of. They did this all. And the reason why it's so important for us to understand, like, hey, they were lying. If they were lying about us, like, how can we see with our own eyes? We've been talking about on this show for the last year and a half that Joe Biden has suffered a cognitive decline, and we don't understand how people can look at him and not say that. But because the politicians like Kamala Harris and other people from the Joy Reids that are on these news stations, the Van Jones, because they've spoken about him to the people that already hate Trump, saying that, oh, no, he's sharp as a tack. He's good to go. He's on his game. When we're looking at it like, yo, are we talking about the same person? So then all of a sudden, when Donald Trump destroyed him in a debate, now they're like, oh, my God, we didn't realize this. We didn't know. You're lying to us. It was a strategy. And if we don't look at it as a strategy, see, we have to stop thinking that these people are not as intelligent as they truly are. Everything that happens, in my opinion, is mostly a strategy. Now, that doesn't necessarily always work, but it's still their strategy that they put time behind making those decisions. Let's keep going.
You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him.
Yo, how do y'all former colleagues, bosses, girlfriends, boyfriends, do they always speak about you in high regards. Matter of fact, let me change it, because that may be yes. Somebody that you had to fire, somebody that you had to get rid of, somebody that you took out of their position of power. How do you think they're going to behave? How do you think they're going to talk about the person that took away their power? How do you think they're going to talk about the person that fired them? Or if they decided to walk away, whatever it was, for whatever reason? Like, please don't just go to the people that I had disagreements with to learn about who I am as a person. I don't know.
To choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI.
Hold up. What just happened in the chat? What is this from Earth? Is this a real thing? What is that? Hold up, is that the super? Ah! That's the super chat, Earth? You can do super chat on here? Hold on, we'll talk about it later.
My director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion, that Iran posed a threat to Israel. I was there, most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
but those
is,
proxies were getting funded by
my commitment
Iran.
to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
let's go back to
that Iran, who pulled out.
It's funny. In that exchange, I actually thought that he was talking over her initially when I watched it, but he's trying to ask a question and she just interrupted. So let's take a look at this. So this is Iran oil revenue. So 2021 to 2024. This is in billions. So 37 billion in 2021, 54 billion 2022, 53 billion in 23, and I think that says 51 billion in 24.
Out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration that
Iran regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
Well, I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision
and there are critics
that they feel.
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have much more to say,
There are a lot of
actually.
things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why we invited you here.
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
and that's why we invited you here
our economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Man, hold up, man. Y'all gotta chill, man. Y'all get me. Hold up, man. Come on, man. I ain't messing with y'all. The boys hitting the chat. I mean, hit the super chat. Now I can say that. Oh man. All right. Come on. Let me get back to man, my brothers. All right. Uncle Brother wrote, the agencies that make up the deep state aren't called intelligence agencies for nothing. They have been in control for decades now. Their strategies are being exposed thanks to the internet. Uncle Brother, that's a great point. Great point. The internet makes it, this day and age makes it so hard for, as I'm getting ready to say, it makes it so hard for them to get away with lying and all this stuff that they've gotten away with in the past. Just think back. And this is another reason why maybe we need to give a little bit of grace. And I'm talking to myself first and foremost, give a little grace to our parents' generation, our uncles and aunts, and maybe our grandparents, because we have the internet. We grew up with the internet. So think about it from their standpoint when they only had just a couple TV channels to get all their news, or maybe just a couple newspapers that they read. It was a lot easier for them to be fed censored information that was manipulating them in a lot of ways and only getting them to think about things from a particular standpoint that the elites or the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, wanted them to. There was no, like Zuckerberg, there was no social media that was able to give conflicting research or give a different perspective. So maybe we do got to give them a little bit of grace but we'll give them a little bit of grace, but y'all got to give a little bit of us some openness and understanding to seeing things differently than you've seen your entire life. We understand that when you see things through a particular lens your entire life, that it may be hard to adjust your focus to something else. However, it's necessary and needs to happen. So perhaps we can meet somewhere in the middle when it comes to that. So Ursi wrote, LOL, when Trump wins, we can up these donations. That's a fact. Ed wrote, and I like my own super chat. Don't at me, bro. Mac Daddy wrote, Kamala's plan is called Project Puppet. This was a good interview. All right, so I want to, before we finish, and I know that there's still some things that we need to get through in the comment section, but I want to show y'all something else. So there was a response, or not a response, kind of like a, I guess after you know how after the fight, you know, they got the post-fight interviews. Something interesting that I want y'all to look at. So, and I'm not sure that I've seen this exact clip. So a lot of it I'll be responding in real time, just like y'all. But take a look at this. This is Bret Baier's response to the interview that he did with Kamala. So I want y'all to take a look at this. Let me know your thoughts.
And the man of the hour joins us now. Brett, good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning.
You've had 15 hours now to marinate over this. What did you think about how it went?
You know, guys, good morning. I left there right after the interview, and I thought, wow, this was really a lot more contentious than I thought. It was there was a lot of filibustering. I didn't really want to keep on interrupting, but if I didn't, I thought there were maybe be 4 answers total in the interview. I think I came away with there were moments that clearly she prepared for, that I think she wanted to have the viral moment, and she got it, and I think her campaign was happy with that. I think there were things that Mark played and some other moments where I think a lot of people looking back at the transcript are going to say, wow, that's interesting. It's newsy. It's not what she usually answers.
One of the things you talked about at some length was immigration.
Yo, I'm not smiling at the interview. I'm smiling at, yo, damn, man. It feels good when your bros support you, man. And I got to say this, yo. And I know a lot of people don't want me to interrupt right now because we're getting into the interview, but I have to because, yo, it's been over a year and a half, almost 2 years that we've been doing these shows 3 times a week. And there's a few people, like I said, we welcome all newcomers. We need that. We need to grow as a community. But when it comes down to us having this, like, I've had some committed bros along the whole process. So that's why I really say that it's we. So, man, shout out to y'all, man. And Queen said he needed sweatsuit. Your sweatsuits, I promise you, they're already on the way. They actually came earlier this week. So we got y'all. Matter of fact, y'all need to check that out as well. Y'all need to get some sweatsuits. But let's get back to the show. My apologies. But just wanted to show some love to my bros because I'm telling y'all, I wouldn't still be doing this if it wasn't just for that support. Urshi knows that, Queez knows that, Aunt knows that, Lana knows that, my parents know that, everybody that tunes in, Shy knows that. I hate doing that when I forget. Now, Uncle Brother knows that, Unmotivated knows that, Back Daddy knows that, Mark knows that. So this is why sometimes I try not to name names, but if you know, then you know. So let's keep going. And make sure that you like the video.
And if you pull up call for number 1, this is about her reaction, the Biden-Harris reaction to migrant crime.
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that.
So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
One thing I noticed is that she didn't really seem to have a way to say, so here's what I'm going to do differently going forward, an opportunity to do that. That could have been an opportunity missed.
Yeah, and listen, Dana, that's the key thing about immigration is that the 94 executive orders that were rescinded in the first days of the Biden-Harris administration, they opened the door. They took away the catch and release. They took away Remain in Mexico, and that's the whole thing. I mean, she wants to talk about this bill that they dropped first, which was kind of an amnesty bill to path the citizenship for 11 million immigrants in the first days that had no chance. The White House had the Democrats had the White House, the House, and the Senate, and they didn't bring it up or push it. The second bill she talks about right away is the comprehensive bipartisan bill that had 6 Democrats that voted against it. And, yes, Donald Trump maybe lobbied against it, but there were also problems with that. And in between those 3.5 years was things that could have happened. And we've talked about that many times. And that's what I was trying to get to.
And my fault. I think I missed something. My bad. Hold on. So Richard, shout out to Richard. My apologies, Richard, if I missed this. My apologies. So Richard wrote, does it bother anyone else? The DOD has authority, been given authority to use lethal force against Americans in America. It's all over the net. Dan Bongeno is one. Can you elaborate on that? Because I don't want to answer something that, I'm not too familiar on. So definitely elaborate on that. And then I'll, give my honest feedback based on just, an understanding that you can provide. So I'm not as familiar with it. So I don't want to just, comment on it. But you elaborate on it and I got you, brother. My apologies that I missed your comment. So let's keep going with this.
And then you did press her on the fact that the American people say that 79% of the country think it's on the wrong track. She tried to say, but that's because Trump's been running for 8 years. What'd you make of it?
I thought it was interesting. I just think she came back to Donald Trump, I think maybe 15 or 20 times in the interview. And that one was really interesting because I was talking about the wrong track and she said, you know what I'm talking about. And I actually didn't. And I just said, I actually don't know what you're talking about. And I think that was an interesting moment because she kept on going back to Donald Trump, who obviously hasn't been in office for the last 3.5 years.
And for those of you that didn't see last night, Brett, you explained that they got there a little late and then they tried to cut it off.
So this is the part that I did see. So I want y'all to pay attention to this. So keep in mind, at the end of the interview, Kamala said, yeah, I got a lot more, almost as if, like, why are we shutting down the interview now? Listen to this. So this is actually, I'm actually surprised that this was actually the structure of this and why they would do it like this. But y'all take a listen and y'all tell me if y'all were surprised as well.
So that's why you were sort of rushing at the end to let it come to a close.
Yeah, it was a quick dismount because I had a lot of people rapping me doing the big rap. But listen, I'm very grateful that they came on, and dealing with the Harris people has been fine. It was a little tense because we had a time deadline, and it started later. And originally we had 25, 30 minutes. Then it was 20 minutes. They were watching the clock, and so we had to speed things up at the end.
Brett, Mr. Gracious Bear, it was good to have you today. Congrats on that interview. I'm sure everyone's going to be talking about it for days to come. 19 days to go until the election. Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
It's 10:43. It's 10:43. I salute y'all. Had a bunch of other bunch of other things to show y'all, especially from Ant on IG and a few other things that y'all have sent me on IG. But we're gonna and Richard, please make sure that you turn on your notifications as well. Make sure everybody subscribe and turn on their notifications as well as like. Come on, man, y'all, Uncle Brother man. Wow, I'm encouraged by the awareness of this on this channel. Please exercise caution when further researching communism, Marxism. Please look into Caleb Maupin, a self-professed communist who's staunchly anti-Harris. Brother, thank you. And I'm looking forward to taking a dive into this with you as well, because, and maybe this is what I'll do. I'm trying to think. I'm going to try to figure out a way that, let me try to figure out a way that we can connect on this. This is what I'll do. When we're going to do the show, when we're getting ready to do the show on Marxism and communism, I'll kind of put the announcement out there ahead of time. So I'll schedule it well before, so that way we know, like, hey, it's happening on this Monday or it's happening on this Wednesday. So let's definitely do that. Let's because we got a lot to discuss. We got a lot to cover as always. So I'll make sure that you have the heads up, because we're going to definitely need you in the building as well when we have those conversations. So let's do it like this. And first off, with the super chats, a lot of this stuff I didn't properly announce, but we have officially been accepted into the YouTube partner program. So that's now why people are able to, and I didn't even tell my bros that you're able to do that. So when Ursi first sent that over, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that you could do it using Streamlabs or using Talk Studio, this platform that we're on right now. But I just appreciate y'all so much, man. I appreciate y'all so much. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to, so for all the newcomers, don't go, because we have the most important part of the show left. And that's when we do 45 seconds of visualization, meditation, manifesting, whatever it is you need. We're just still for 45 seconds. We close our eyes if we're in a safe place, get our breath work in, just to kind of reset things, because a lot of times these conversations can get us fired up, and we get it. And we may feel like, hey, we need to be fired up. Maybe this is a good thing, this energy that we're going through, to go through the rest of the day with. So and look into the Franklin School. All right, Mark. Yeah. We're going to look into this. This is the only way a community can grow, when we have engagement from everybody. So these are certain things where, and this is how I learn, to be totally honest. This is how I learn. So now I'm going to look into this. We'll look into it together and we'll be better off. This is how communities should learn and should grow. So let's do our 45 seconds. It's very important for us at the end of every show. You give yourself whatever you decide that you need in order to, when we finish the show, to have the right mindset to finish out this Friday and to complete the task that we set at hand in the beginning of every week, which is to make this the greatest week ever. So let's take 45 seconds. Let's start right now. Give yourself, give your mind, body, soul, whatever you need, whether that's just breath work, whether it's meditation, whether it's manifesting, whatever you need. All right, let's go. All right, one last deep breath, inhaling all the positive energy, exhaling all the negative. So in and out. Yo, I appreciate Uncompetitive said if my guest was 10 minutes late for a 30-minute interview, I wouldn't talk to them. Alana said, have a great weekend. Urs said, big congratulations. Ed said, hey, let's go. It's yo, I appreciate y'all. Urs still said in the chat, oh my God. This channel is completely self-funded. So everything is appreciated. We're gonna just thank y'all. I don't even just thank y'all. Thank y'all to everybody. Please share with a friend. There's other ways you could support how my bros are supporting, but there's other ways to support as well. Share this video, share the channel. Take a look at some of our other videos. After we do the shows, within a couple days, we usually clip it out and have different segments for the show. So you don't have to listen to the entire show if you don't want to. But I'll be honest, man. I think I need to give these funds right back to the chat because the chat has made the show. We already got the fire emojis. We answered the fire emojis. Uncle Brother, you already know. Let's just and Uncompetitive said congratulations on the YouTube partner thing. I'm still figuring out exactly what it is, but y'all know what we're here to do. Elevate on purpose from an intentional standpoint and just focusing on let's not sell ourselves short in this life. You know, a lot of times we could sell ourselves short, and you know, when we're younger, I always think about this. We have all this confidence that we think that we know. It's not even that we think. We know that we can do everything. We have all these big dreams, big goals. And a lot of times as we get older, life has a way of getting in the way of those things or presenting certain challenges to where we think like, I'm going to avoid those things. I don't feel like dealing with it. And we become comfortable with other aspects of life, perhaps. Nothing wrong with that. But I just want to remind us that we have unlimited potential. All right. Anything that we want to do, we can decide, create a plan, and just create some action around working towards that. So I just want to make sure that I'm reiterating that to y'all. We are individuals that can live in that purposeful abundance that we always talk about. You know, abundance is cool. Purpose is amazing. But when we combine the two, then, you know, it allows us, in my opinion, to enjoy life in full. And to me, that's showing a certain level of appreciation and gratitude to life. So shout out to y'all. Onward and upward, strength and honor. And as we know, you holding down the flames for the gang. We already know. Man, I'm so appreciative of y'all. I'm so appreciative, y'all. Let's make sure that we're getting to that bag. What's in my bag? What's in my bag? The things that I'm putting in the bag as I'm aligning myself with a certain trajectory and accomplishing the little steps in order to get to that big goal. It's peace, love, and happiness. And then, of course, health, wealth, and in everything that we do, integrity. Shout out to y'all. We know everybody know Queez get a little Queez don't play with the fire emojis. But we filling in and go enjoy that Miami Heat. A lot of wind, but I'm not complaining. I'm gonna go take a walk around the water right now and just bask in this appreciation from all y'all, man. I promise y'all I love y'all. I love y'all and appreciate y'all. And with that, I'll see y'all soon. Ew.